a lot of the people that I've known who have acquired things have always done it. Maybe it's like the aspirational entrepreneur or the person that really wants to get into it. And then they've never, they don't have that idea, which is totally okay. Or they don't have, they don't know what they want to build. And so Flippa is this very unique opportunity for them to acquire a business in a box, essentially, for a lot of the sales. And it gives you this very unique opportunity to just like immediately get into a business and own it.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to another episode of Humans of Flippa, a series where we uncover the lives of those people who have had success with the Flippa platform. And today I am joined by Samir Al-Kamouni, who is the CEO and co-founder of Fetch and Funnel, which he will no doubt tell us a lot about. Samir, thank you so much for joining us today.
Blake, it's an honor. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Now, Samir and I got to know each other, I think a couple of months back now. And so I said, hey, you've got cool stories. You've been around the block. You've had some experience with our platform, but you're also obviously an expert in your field. So before we kick into this, Samir, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're up to today and what you actually do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, I'm CEO of Fetch and Funnel. So, Fetch and Funnel is a performance-based full-service marketing agency, and we really specialize a lot in the e-com world. We work with other businesses as well, but we're very conversion-driven. So, we're running ads, traditional media buying agency. We run all types of ads, you name it, Meta, TikTok, Google, etc. But we take a very conversion first approach, which a lot of businesses should think about doing that in general, right? Where we're really obsessed with figuring out exactly who our client's customer avatar is, who is that target market. And that's probably a good thing to even talk about today, but because so many clients will come our way and they'll, ask them who their target customer is, and they'll say it's snowboarders, right? And it's like, no, that's not your target market. That's like your serviceable market, but that's not your customer avatar or the niche that we should be going after. And so when you really hone that in and isolate it, makes everything kind of easier, right? Your marketing, your messaging, your conversion funnels, you name it, everything around that. And so that's really a lot of the stuff that we focus on and hone in on, but still sort of a traditional full service marketing agency. And yeah, that's mostly what I'm up to today. But I had you on my podcast selfishly a couple months ago, Ecom Growth Leaders. We had a great conversation, and then you discovered that I've had some success on Flippa, both as a buyer and a seller. And so, yeah, here I am, kind of excited to talk about that, but also kind of help anybody, maybe through the purchase or the selling process, right? Because I think I can play a unique angle to that because I've worn both hats, but then I also have my marketing hat and business owner hat as well, where I know what it takes to run a successful business and also grow one, right? Where you're going to have to nurture whichever, whether you're buying or selling, you're going to have to nurture that baby. So
Let's flip gears a little bit. I'd love to hear, you said buy and sell on Flippa. Pick your perspective, go from buy or sell, I don't mind, and give people a lens from which to view the Flippa platform.
yeah, it's interesting because I sold more than I bought, and I did that just because of my skill set that I have, right? I've done that where, it's, in the age of drop shipping and all those types of things, I certainly knew that I could create some really great websites, but advertise them in a unique way where I could build the advertising funnel, right? And that's what I noticed was a big problem. A lot of people would spin up these sites, but then there wasn't any back end to it, right? And so I could show some serious growth. And then there was some nice marketing tips where they'd get this advertising funnel behind it, and then they'd get a couple hours consulting with me to help them guide them through it. And so it was selling myself in a way. And I said, hey, maybe I'll even turn them into a client afterwards if they need it or whatever. And so those were always fun. And I did quite a few of those just because I saw good opportunities to find some interesting niches that I was interested in. And if they really took off, I'll keep running them. And then if they didn't take off or they required more work than I had time to put into them, then, then I would put them on Flippa. And always had really good interactions with that. And I mean, from from a seller's perspective, it was always to me like the best place, like the number one place community wise and eyeballs wise and all those types of things to get. And then it was always helpful to get even assessment on like what is it really worth and all those types of things, right? Because I always, you don't know, right? Sometimes you don't know, and you think a lot of people I think might think it's worth a lot more than it is, or vice versa, might think it's worth a lot less than it is. And then on the selling perspective, I've had a few of those as well where um I'm sorry, on the purchase perspective, I've had a few where there's a couple different things. Some software type things where I knew that they could just kind of help us, and I could just engulf them into our own business, not sell it, not make money off of it, but it would just benefit our business.
Yep.
And so those have been really great acquisitions for us. And then some content stuff has always been good too. And I've done those content acquisitions a lot of different ways. I've done them for existing clients
Yep.
where I told them we needed to do that, and they didn't really, they knew it was going to be a long game. SEO is a long game, right? You need to be doing SEO, but it's a long game, right? And that's why you're playing it. And so for them, it was like, it was a quick opportunity, right, for us to do that. And then it was a really fun marketing tactic for us as well, because then we could start running ads from that blog and acting like it's this third party that's recommending this product, even though now they technically own it and things like that, right? And so we've always been looking for like really interesting marketing tactics that could really benefit either us or our clients. And that's really been a lot of the acquisition stuff. Like I've acquired a few small things for myself personally, but nothing that big. A lot of the interesting things that would be worth talking about is really around that stuff that, again, just like was about driving results, right? And it, for us, it was always nice because then we're always everybody's always looking for an ROI, no matter who you are, but we weren't looking for this like AdSense ROI or this ROI like coming directly from what we were acquiring to drive the results directly from that, if that makes sense, right? We were using it as a tactic or a marketing, just like another piece of the puzzle in order to just improve everything that we had going on. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense, particularly given that you are Samir, who owns Fetch and Funnel, right? So you've got, let's tap into that a little bit. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that one of the reasons that people buy online businesses is actually to supplement their growth channel strategies. And that's what Samir has just talked about. So if you're listening in and you're thinking, okay, why would Samir rip the ads off the site and replace them with the client's own site's material merchandising marketing? What he's actually doing is buying an owned media channel, because SEO is hard. Samir alluded to that. And you've got a situation where you can actually acquire a business that may have 10,000 unique visitors a month. And maybe they SEO really well for the top 10 best snowboard reviews and whatever that might be. And so now, all of a sudden, I've got an acquisition channel where people are actually seeing the content and seeing us as a subject matter expert, but then I'm essentially acquiring those customers less expensively than I would have to through traditional channels. Samir, is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's interesting. I mean, everybody's doing it. Like, I don't care like if you want to go buy a mattress, like just go Google best mattresses out there. All those companies, like all those blogs and everything that you're reading, they're usually run by the mattress companies, right? And so it's kind of no secret. And it's the same thing. And a lot of that stuff's pay to play. And so it's like if you can own a piece of the market for yourself, for your own business, it's huge, right? It's a big opportunity. And the other interesting one that I learned from Neil Patel totally secretly was actually dissolving these blogs into your own. And it was really interesting because we were running all the ads for Kissmetrics, which for those of you who have been around the block for a while, Kissmetrics was like the number one thought leader in the marketing world for a really long time. They had an amazing blog, and they drove tons of traffic from their blog. And it was actually a ton of traffic that was unqualified for their product. And we ran all the ads for them, and we helped them kind of isolate a lot of that. And then at one point they started breaking off the company into these weird sections. And then all of a sudden they said that like they were rebranding and dissolving Kissmetrics. And I was like, why would you ever do that? And then they told me they were getting rid of the blog. And I literally asked them, because Neil Patel had left Kissmetrics a while back, and I literally asked them point blank, is Neil buying the blog? And they didn't say a word. It was crickets. All right, Neil's buying the blog. And then literally 3 weeks later, any Kissmetrics URL that you went to redirected to Neil Patel's website.
Wow.
And so he just acquired this massive blog that had millions of visitors a month and just completely dissolved it and had every link redirect to his own website. And for a while, it was on his website. And then eventually it just redirected pretty much to his homepage.
Yep.
And so, and to me, that was like this crazy, interesting acquisition strategy that I had never really thought of. And so we did a couple of those recently, and those were really interesting because it was just like this huge jump in organic traffic. And if you acquire the right content that caters to who your target market is, like it's just this win-win that someone Googles something and then they land on your website. Now, you obviously don't want to disconnect. I'm not recommending that you do that if it's going to throw the end user off and they're not,
Got to be conscious of the user experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But like you get the point where that can be an immensely powerful technique, and sure, you're dissolving the blog, like whatever, right? But like you benefited from that acquisition at the end of the day.
When you think about your experiences you've had on Flippa and even your clients, how do you think that buying a business, do you think that buying a business is a strong way to complement revenue generation?
Yeah, it's interesting. It certainly could be. If it's complementary in some way to what you're already doing, I think that's going to be the most important piece. Yeah, and I think it could absolutely be a really great technique as long as it's complementary at the end of the day, right? I think that's the most important part. And that's what we're talking about as it relates to a blog, right? You're not going to buy a blog about dogs when you sell to snowboarders, right? But if you sell dog products and you acquire a blog that's all about dog product reviews, boom, that's a win-win. And you could easily complement that, and vice versa. And then there's software. I mean, you guys have so much on the website that I would doubt that you couldn't find something that could benefit your business. But a lot of the people that I've known who have acquired things have always done it. Maybe it's like the aspirational entrepreneur or the person that really wants to get into it. And then they've never, they don't have that idea, which is totally okay. Or they don't have, they don't know what they want to build. And so Flippa is this very unique opportunity for them to acquire a business in a box, essentially, for a lot of the sales. And it gives you this very unique opportunity to just like immediately get into a business and own it. But if you're going to do that, I feel like the two pieces of advice that I have for you is, one, get involved in something that you're passionate about, right? Like if you don't know anything about women's fashion, don't go buy a woman, and you're a guy and you know nothing about it. Don't go buy like a woman's clothing line because you're like, well, that could make a lot of money. And I think there's a big opportunity here, right? So do something that you're passionate about and you're going to be obsessed with. You're going to learn everything about it, right? If you're a woman who's already into fashion and then that clothing store is there and you're like, oh my goodness, I can see how I can improve this, then that's a win-win. And then the other thing is like, think about your skill set, what you do better than anybody else, what your skill set is. Like, you don't need to be this marketing genius. You can hire an agency. You don't need to be this, manufacturing genius. You can find partners to do that. But you should think about like what you're good at. And then if you can find something that's for sale and it's missing that component, that's huge, right? Like I'm an advertising and marketing expert. If I can find some e-com site or something like that that's on Flippa and it's like this untapped thing that they had no idea what they were doing advertising wise, and I just see this huge opportunity for me to come in at the ground level and scale that thing because they just didn't do it right, that would be a really win-win for me, right? But if I found one and they were already crushing the ads, there's not a ton of value that I could necessarily add, depending, right? But like necessarily. So I feel like those are the two most important things that I think like will set you up for success. And like, you'll be excited about that acquisition. You're going to be obsessed with it. You're going to dig really deep. And then you can add your value to really kind of kick it up, or it's missing something that you want to learn. Maybe that's another thing too, right? Because again, maybe you want to learn about marketing and advertising, and this is the opportunity for you to do that. Because if it's your ad dollars, you're always gonna work hard to spend them wisely.
One of the really interesting things is that the average business sold on Flippa is actually 4.5 years old, and so if you think about that, that gives you some context as to the life cycle and the time that the average person puts into a business. So the fact that it doesn't work in the first month, or you haven't increased it by 100% month on month, is not necessarily what you should be focusing on. What you should be focusing on is consistently improving over time the asset you buy to get a greater return from it. And no doubt you see this with your clients, right? It's not, there's no silver bullet per se.
Yep. Yeah, but it still stood the test of time, right? Where the majority of businesses fail within a year, and then like almost all of them fail within 5 years. Sometimes someone just wants to get out of it and they're like, I don't want my baby to die. I'm not trying to make a good bajillion dollars selling this thing. And then that gives you the opportunity to carry the torch and grow it, or just merge it into whatever you're doing, like I kind of do.
Awesome, Samir. Now, what are you up to? What's next for you? So, thank you. You've introduced yourself and Fetch and Funnel. We've had a quick chat about Flippa and your experiences buying and selling there. Let's finish off with what's next for you. What do you see as trends in the marketing landscape for Fetch and Funnel?
It's an interesting one. I mean, we're talking about a lot of very futuristic things at times, like the metaverse and all that type of stuff, where that's going to go and what's going to happen there, which is an interesting one. We're trying to dabble in a little bit of that, but for us, we're always just trying to get better at what we're doing. And so, and I think a lot of that is getting out of Meta, getting out of Google space, because you're hearing so many people pulling budget and there isn't, I know why those things are happening. And so, for us, it's programmatic and other opportunities and getting really good at creative. I think that's another thing a lot of businesses should think about when they're marketing and advertising. Like, how can they come up with this really unique and interesting creative that separates them? And it doesn't need to be this well-polished, phenomenal, high quality stuff, because sometimes that's the stuff that doesn't work very well. But just getting some user-generated content or whatever it is to just film it with your iPhone, like in your in your office or whatever. So it's a lot of that. We're just kind of doubling down right now, more than anything, which I think the businesses that do that right now are the ones that are going to come out on top over the next couple of years. Whether you think economy is going to go up or down or whatever is neither here nor there. It's definitely a fact. If you are, if you're worried about it and you don't double down, you're probably going to be in trouble. If you aren't worried about it and you do double down, I think those are the ones that are really going to come out on top at the end of the day. And I know we're both doing that, so I'm excited to kind of see where that takes us.
Awesome. So, Samir, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being part of Humans of Flippa, our quickfire chat to give people an insight into our platform, as well as what the humans that operate on Flippa actually look like and do every day. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Blake. It was an honor.